My son called me a poor mother until he discovered my will for 3 years. I gave my retirement money to my son every month while he called me a poor mother behind my back. He had no idea I was worth $8.7 million until the lawyer read my will out loud. Hi, I'm Margaret, and today I'm sharing how my son's greed cost him everything he thought he was getting. My name is Margaret, I'm 73 years old, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I worked as a high school principal for 35 years and saved every penny I could. My late husband Robert and I were very careful with money. We invested in real estate, bought stocks, and never lived beyond our means. That when Robert passed away 5 years ago, he left me everything. Between our investments, his life insurance, our paid-off properties, and my retirement accounts, I inherited close to $9 million. But I never told my son David about the real amount. David is 45 years old, married to a woman named Sandra, and they have 2 teenage children. After his father died, David started treating me like I was a burden. He'd make comments about my tiny retirement income and how I was barely getting by. The truth was, I was living modestly on purpose. I wanted to see who my son really was. When he thought I had nothing to give him, 3 years ago, David came to me with a sob story. He said his mortgage was too high, his kids needed money for school activities, and Sandra wanted to quit her part-time job to focus on the children. Mom, you know we're struggling, he said, sitting in my small living room. Could you help us out with maybe $2,000 a month? I know it's a lot to ask from your little pension, but we're desperate. I agreed to give him $2,500 every month from what he thought was my small retirement income. I told him it was most of what I had, and that helping him would mean I'd have to be very careful with my own expenses. Instead of being grateful, David started treating me like a charity case. When I'd visit their house, Sandra would make comments like, "Oh, Margaret's here. I hope you ate lunch because we don't have extra food." David would talk to his friends right in front of me about how sad it was that his mother was living paycheck to paycheck and how they were supporting her as much as she was helping them. I overheard him on the phone once saying, "Yeah, Mom's broke. She gives us her whole pension basically. It's pathetic how little she saved for retirement. Thank God we're taking care of the family finances now." The breaking point came 6 months ago at my granddaughter Emma's 16th birthday party. I had given Emma $500 cash for her birthday, which I thought was generous. David pulled me aside in the kitchen and said, "Mom, you really shouldn't have given Emma that much money. I know you're trying to be a good grandmother, but you need to be realistic about your financial situation." "David, it's her 16th birthday," I said. "I wanted to give her something special, but Mom, you're giving us $2,500 a month and you're living on what, $1,800 after that? You can't afford to give away $500. You need to start thinking about your own future. What if you get sick? What if you need to go into a nursing home?" Then Sandra joined the conversation. "Margaret, David's right. You're being irresponsible with money. Poor people can't afford to play generous grandmother. You should be saving every penny you have left." They talked about me like I was a child who couldn't handle money. David even suggested that maybe he should take over my finances to make sure I wasn't making any more poor decisions. That night, I drove home and made a decision. I was going to change my will. 2 weeks later, I called David and Sandra for a family meeting. I told them I had something important to discuss about my finances and my future. They came over to my house with notebooks, ready to take control of my limited resources. David had even brought some pamphlets about low-income senior housing. "Mom, Sandra and I have been talking," David began, "and we think it's time for you to move into a senior community. Something affordable, maybe subsidized housing. Your little house here is too expensive to maintain on your income. Plus," Sandra added, "if you moved somewhere cheaper, you could give us more money each month. Maybe $3,000 instead of $2,500. Our expenses keep going up." I listened to them plan out my life based on what they thought was my poverty. They had decided I should sell my house, move into low-income housing, give them even more money, and basically disappear from their comfortable lives except when they needed financial help. "I have a better idea," I said finally. "Let me tell you about the changes I'm making to my will." David laughed. "Mom, what will? You don't have anything to leave anybody. We're grateful for the monthly help, but let's be realistic about what you have." I pulled out a folder from my desk and set it on the coffee table. Inside were bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, and insurance policies. David, Sandra, I want you to see something, I said, opening the first bank statement. This is my main checking account. The current balance is $847,000. Sandra's notebook fell out of her hands. David's face went completely white. This is my savings account, I continued, showing them the next statement. $1.2 million. This is my investment portfolio with Charles Schwab. Current value, $4.8 million. These are the deeds to 3 rental properties I own in Scottsdale. Combined value, approximately $1.9 million. And this is your father's life insurance policy, which I received in full, $500,000. The room was completely silent except for Sandra's sharp intake of breath. The total value of my estate is $8.7 million, I said calmly. The $2,500 I give you every month represents about 0.3% of my annual investment income. David finally found his voice. Mom, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us think you were broke? Because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer you, I replied, and you've both shown me exactly who you are. I pulled out my revised will and read it to them, to my son David and his wife Sandra, who spent 3 years treating me like a burden while I supported their lifestyle. I leave you each exactly $2,500, $1 for every month. You made me feel like a charity case. Sandra started crying. David was staring at me in shock. The remainder of my estate, valued at approximately $8.7 million, will be divided as follows. $2 million to my granddaughter Emma for her education and future. $2 million to my grandson Michael for his education and future. $3 million to various charities that support elderly people in need. $1.7 million to establish a scholarship fund for low-income students who want to become teachers. David stood up abruptly. Mom, you can't be serious. We're your family. We took care of you. You took my money while insulting me, I said. You planned to put me in subsidized housing while living in your big house that I was helping pay for. You called me poor, irresponsible, and pathetic. Did you think I was deaf? For the next 2 hours, David and Sandra begged, cried, and promised they would change. They swore they had never meant to hurt me and that they were just trying to help me be responsible. Mom, please, David pleaded. You're right, we were wrong. But don't punish your grandchildren by giving away their inheritance to strangers. I'm not punishing Emma and Michael, I explained. They're each getting $2 million, more than enough for college and a great start in life. I'm punishing the 2 people who spent 3 years treating me like a burden. Sandra tried a different approach. Margaret, we made mistakes, but we love you. Family should forgive family. Don't let money destroy our relationship. You destroyed our relationship the day you called me a poor mother who needed to stop playing generous grandmother, I replied. Money didn't destroy anything. Your greed and disrespect did. They left that night in shock, and I haven't heard from them since, except through their lawyer, who informed me they were planning to contest the will. But my attorney laughed when I told her, Margaret, you're of sound mind. You have clear reasons for your decisions, and you have documentation of their behavior. This will is bulletproof. The hardest part was explaining the situation to Emma and Michael. I asked them to come over without their parents, and I told them everything. Emma, who's now 17, looked sad but not surprised. Grandma, I heard Mom and Dad talking about you a lot. They said mean things. I didn't like it, but I didn't know how to say anything. Michael, who's 15, was more direct. They were jerks to you, Grandma. Dad always talks about you like you're this poor old lady who's a burden. I never understood why they talked about you that way. I explained to them that they would still receive a substantial inheritance, but that their parents' behavior had consequences. I want you both to understand something, I told them. The way your parents treated me is not how you treat family members. When someone helps you, you show gratitude, not contempt. When someone sacrifices for you, you show respect, not pity. Emma hugged me and said, Grandma, I'm sorry they were mean to you. You didn't deserve that. Both kids promised to maintain a relationship with me regardless of their parents' reaction, and they've kept that promise. 6 months later, my will stands unchanged. David and Sandra's lawyer advised them that contesting it would be expensive and unsuccessful, so they've given up that approach. Instead, they've started what I call the reconciliation campaign. They send cards, flowers, and apologies. Sandra even wrote me a 5-page letter explaining how sorry she is and how much they need me in their lives. But here's what they still don't understand. This was never about the money. This was about respect, gratitude, and basic human decency. For 3 years, I handed over $2,500 every month while they treated me like a pathetic charity case. They made plans to move me into low-income housing. They called me irresponsible and poor behind my back. They treated my generosity like it was their right. Bomani reveals character. And their character was ugly when they thought I was poor. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: don't let people treat you badly just because they think you need them more than they need you. And if you're someone who treats family members differently based on their financial status, remember that you might not know the whole story. Emma and Michael will inherit enough money to change their lives. The charities I've chosen will help thousands of people who really need support, and David and Sandra will get exactly what they thought my monthly help was worth. Very little. Sometimes the best inheritance you can leave your family is a lesson in treating people with respect, regardless of their bank account balance. Share this story if you believe that respect and gratitude matter more than money. And remember, how you treat people when you think they can't help you shows who you really are.